When the pandemic flipped everything around, including my journey as an artist, I knew I wanted to use the time when the whole world shut down as an opportunity to become a better artist and practice my craft more diligently. In the summer of 2020, I created this piece, titled Celine's Bedroom. Now, Celine is an original character of mine who has gone through quite the transformation over the years in terms of design, but in this video, I'm going to show you how I went from this piece featuring Celine to this piece featuring myself in my dream room, and how I was able to learn how to improve my art style with a few simple tips, tricks, and mindset changes that helped me better understand my art, and how to improve it overall. So the first thing that I like to do when I want to improve my art is study the work of artists who inspire me. I like to compile a little list of about 10 artists or so who emulate elements of the style that I'd like to shape my own art style into. Place them into a Notion document and list off elements from each of their art that I like and that kind of resemble each other. So I'm looking for kind of like common themes between all of them that really catch my eye and that I would like to also include in my art. From there, I decide what I'd like to reflect on in my own art from that list and practice. I found that I tend to like art styles that include a mixture between gentle rendering with very bold line work and pop art elements. I also really love strong visual storytelling, so concepts with magical elements that tell a story are something I'm still actively working toward incorporating in more of my illustrations. One thing I actually really did like about the 2020 piece was that her sitting position was pretty dynamic. Even if the anatomy itself wasn't absolutely perfect, I wanted to still keep the energy of the bisexual seating position, as I am indeed a bisexual, but make it more loose and comfortable. This is a pose I actually do a lot while sitting at my desk, so it seemed pretty fitting. On the topic of anatomy though, I also took this time to reevaluate the sizing on the objects in the room. For example, the can and the keyboard felt way too small for Celine's hands in the 2020 piece, so I made the character art a bit smaller overall in the 2022 piece. Celine also felt a lot larger than the window for some reason, and especially the little bookshelf to the right of her desk, so I just made a lot of scaling adjustments in the 2022 illustration that I think made it feel a lot more cohesive and accurate to real-life scaling. You can figure out scaling by looking at or even taking photos of people and environments with a lot of props. You can even compare your own hand to a can of soda, for example, or place it over your keyboard to see how everything realistically sizes up to each other. As you also might have noticed, I decided to make the 2022 piece a horizontal illustration rather than a vertical one like the previous one. I condensed the character art to be a bit closer to the window so that I could also turn it into a vertical illustration for posting on social media like Instagram that kind of like favors that scaling, and so that the details can be seen much more easily. But I wanted to make the original base piece horizontal still, so that it could be used as a header for my Twitter and potentially other platforms. It feels like a really nice introductory piece to my art for first-time viewers to see. Something that really elevated my art style was educating myself on proper lighting effects and making my color palettes more dynamic. In the original piece for Celine, I wanted to create really warm and golden lighting to fill the space and reflect on all of the objects within the bedroom, but I feel like that made the illustration feel a little bit dull and one note, without any specific areas catching your attention and drawing you to it. So in my new piece that I titled Deep Blue, I wanted to play around with multiple different light sources that reflected different color schemes within the space, while still taking into consideration color theory and what would pair best together. I chose to make the bedroom in the 2022 version feel like it was looking out into a vast ocean from the window, letting all of that blue lighting pour into the space. Now, behind the subject, I added golden lighting fixtures to create a rich and dynamic feel within the bedroom. Another thing that I noticed in the older piece was a lack of definition in my rendering on pretty key subjects in the room. I found that a lot of the elements in the illustration felt very flat and oversimplified, which didn't allow them to stand out properly and made an otherwise interesting concept feel a bit boring to me, honestly. I think very simplified coloring styles can look really awesome for certain artists, but I feel that for the style I was going for, it wasn't executed in a way that I was proud of personally. Specifically, the lack of detail in the whale are what made me want to reevaluate how I could approach it in a more interesting way that really sells the magical feel and concept of the piece. In my studies to improve my art style, I noticed that making focal points within a piece more rendered, so for example the whale, the character, the jellyfish, the window frame, etc., while making background props less detailed made it a lot easier for those important parts to actually stand out better. So as a quick example, I decided to really study photographs of real-life whales and jellyfish, and also took a look at how other artists painted sea creatures to better understand how I could simplify the rendering on them while not losing out on any of their depth. Now, as I mentioned earlier, visual storytelling is something I'm extremely passionate about and honestly want to improve a lot in even right now. In Celine's bedroom piece, I feel like the story I was trying to tell got a bit lost, and I think I lost a bit of it as well as I was drawing it. My original story for Celine, that has since changed a lot over time, was that she was a music producer who had this really cute room and window with a view. But honestly, I don't know, I feel like there's a huge disconnect between her and the whale in this piece. She isn't really, acknowledging him out of her window, and he kind of just feels like a random object floating amongst the clouds, rather than being a cohesive part of his environment outside. There was also nothing else in the room that really added to her as a character apart from the desk setup, so it just felt, it just felt off to me, and there were a lot of elements within that piece that just felt like they were randomly thrown in there, which is exactly what happened, honestly. So I decided to fix this in the 2022 version by adding objects all around the room that actually served a purpose and matched my personality as well, and I also had my character interact with the whale. You can see me stopping mid-sip of my boba to look at these majestic sea creatures floating outside of my window. I have art supplies scattered all over the room, my gaming equipment, Instax camera, some of my favorite characters as props, and a little calico cat snoozing under the desk. I'm honestly not even sure who the little rabbit is sleeping under Celine's desk, and just sort of added it in to fill the empty space down there. So I think that's always an important thing to think about when creating an art piece that can help you improve overall. What is this object, person, thing, etc. adding to my piece? Is it a cohesive part of the story, or am I just trying to fill the space? If I am trying to fill the space, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, how can I make it feel like it fits as a cohesive part of its environment I'm putting it into? Having a better understanding of what you're drawing and what purpose each element is serving in your piece can help your art feel a lot more refined overall. Another brief thing that I noticed in the 2020 piece was that I seemed to be quite afraid of harsher or more stark lighting choices. This is something I'm still trying to improve on right now, but I wanted to make sure that my light sources were really bold and reflecting on their environment in a way that expressed that properly. As an example, in my room in real life, I actually never turn on my ceiling light, and I rely entirely on a bunch of LED lights around various parts of my room. So I used those as a reference for how much light it would bring into the room and how it would bounce off of elements such as my character's hair or the wall that they're dangling in front of. I wanted to make the computer monitor also emit a harsher glow that made it feel more like an actual screen and less like just a flat picture like it does in the 2020 version. And there you go. That's my analysis on how I improved my art style throughout this pandemic, and some tips on how you might be able to approach your art differently as well. I hope this video was helpful for you, and let me know in the comment section below what other topics you would like me to cover in my videos, and don't forget to like and share this video if you enjoyed it. Until next time, my friend.